empower individuals for leading a healthier and happier life. He has been in the healthcare industry for almost 20 years now. To some of us, he's a very familiar face. He had conducted various programs for Project Self in the last couple of workshops. And even Rajesh was mentioning, after his last workshop, 17 people signed up for our diabetic prevention program. And out of the 17, 7 are out of diabetes pretty much. So with nothing new, I welcome Ajit.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Rajesh and everybody at Project Self for inviting me. I actually feel a little bit awkward speaking today. I've heard so many great speakers. Dr. Mistry in the morning, excellent talk. Dr. Comer, and then I think you will also listen to some of the other great talks as well. So my topic, as it rightly says, is healthy aging, or how can we age well? I mean, as was when I was being introduced, nobody wants to really get old. And if you see in your brochure over here, what it says, wellness, if you read that on the cover, wellness is a conscious, self-directed, and evolving process of maximizing performance. So if you see it's a conscious, if you really break it down, what you see is conscious. That means, what it really means is conscious, that you, first of all, you have to be conscious about your own health. And then the second is self-directed. If you're not working towards it, obviously you're not going to be healthy. And the third is, it's an evolving process. As our body is changing, every year we all are getting old, and then we need to evolve and re-evaluate our objectives and then see how can we be really healthy. So let me start on a lighter note with a small joke. People who have heard me before, I like to really lighten it up a little bit. So there was a girl who was in a restaurant, and she was observing and very old couple, very sweet couple who were enjoying their lunch. And she kept on observing them, but she found something very peculiar about them. There was only one person eating at a time. So first, the wife was eating, and the husband very sweetly was looking at the wife. And then after some time, the husband was eating, and the wife was looking at him very sweetly. So she was like, okay, whatever. So once after the meal was finished, she goes back to them and says, I'm really impressed that your love, and you probably have been married for a very, very long time, and you seem to be very, very happy. So congratulations for that. But one thing I'm really kind of surprised, and I wanted to ask if you were mind, why were you guys not eating together? They both looked at each other and smiled. They said, we just have one set of dentures. So that's the aging, right? As you age, I mean, things are going to happen, right? We all are trying, we are all fascinated by you. We all want to be young. Why do we want to be young? Anybody? Why do we want to be young? You want to look good? You want to continue doing things which we have enjoyed all our life? Right? So if you go to the next slide, this is where we start. That for life, as long as people can remember, we are fascinated by health, by living long, by looking young. And you see this particular movie where, and there are numerous movies where we see that people are really fascinated with looking young. Now, if you go back and see, if you can go to the next slide, please. If we see, not only in movies, but there has been a science. And to give you a little bit of a background, I'm no doctor, as most of you, half of the people at least know me. I work in the pharmaceutical industry, and I've spent almost 20 years in health. I do run a nonprofit, so I'm very self-taught on health. So therefore what you see, and I'm very well read, so what you see over here, any magazine you pick up today, what you see that there is science behind it. People are trying to research, there are clinical trials being done, and people are trying to find a solution. And as Americans, we all live in America, so as Americans, we consume the maximum number of pills. For everything there is a pill. For every single thing there is a pill. So what you see over here in this particular magazine, you see the Time magazine, you see The Economist, they're saying cheating death. And how can people really live longer? I know when Vikrant was talking about 70 or 80 years when you probably live to your peak or you die. I mean, I don't think any of us want to live like only 70, 80 years. People are pushing 100 now, right? So we are fascinated. We want to really, really live longer. So, but everybody's saying, okay, how do I do that? How do you really live longer? People are looking for a pill. People are saying, if I can just get a pill by which I can pop, and then I'm going to be young forever. Or my body functions are maintained, and I can live a happier life, and I look young, and all my things I love to do, I'm able to do. If you go to the next slide. But there is no pill yet. I work in the pharmaceutical industry, and believe me, pharmaceutical industry is spending millions and billions of dollars to find a drug which can really make us age slowly. So what you see over here, and I think Dr. Nisha is also going to talk about holistic health after I speak. There are many studies. There's a different department in National Institute of Health which really talks about the different things you could potentially do to remain healthy. So let's see some of those. One is people are talking about if you eat fish. If you eat fish, fish has been found to have certain benefits in terms of longevity or in terms of maintaining good health. Exercise, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit more detail. People say, and there is proof, there are clinical trials which are being done which says people who work out, who exercise, not only have the benefits just in terms of having a good physique, looking good, but also it has an impact on your mental health as a mental and emotional and also to a certain extent spiritual health. So it's extremely important. Then there have been some studies where people say if you're less selfish, that means if you volunteer, that means you're trying to be selfless, and that has some benefit in terms of longevity. Then there are other studies, and you can go to, we have some resources at the end of the presentation, the links which will let you know. There are studies which have been done on olive oil. There have been studies which have been done on Mediterranean diet. Obviously, there is a very clear study on vegetarian. People have found that people who are vegetarian tend to live longer. Then there is, obviously, there is still controversy on multivitamins. So there are so many other things which people are trying to do to have a longer and healthier life. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of things which appeared in The Economist, which talks about what can you really do. So one, they're saying if you find a pill, I mean, I work in pharmaceuticals. What is common with a pill? What is the issue with a pill? Sorry? Side effects. Absolutely. So each pill or every pill has got a side effect. It's a kind of a chemical or they're biologics. But at the end of the day, you got a side effect with a pill. So if you can manage the side effect, then if you're popping in a painkiller, you know it's going to cause you some gastrointestinal disturbance. So there are side effects for every single pill. I mean, there are. I know we have a cardiologist, amongst us, Dr. Nisha. But if there are so many different pills for managing hypertension, but each hypertension pill has a side effect. So really, you have to see the profile of the patient and then basically give a pill. So if you go to the next slide, now this one thing is, what are we trying to do? Which are the biggest killers in the world today, or in America today? So the one we know is cardiovascular disease. The second is cancer. So in this particular article, which I found really, really very interesting, is if you beat cardiovascular disease, you're still going to gain about 5.5 years of life. If you beat cancer, you're going to get an additional life of 3 years plus. And why is that? Because as we get old, different diseases are competing to get us. Because your body is kind of failing, and then you probably, if you are able to protect yourself from cardiovascular disease, then you probably will have something else. If you click on the next point, there's a very interesting fact, and it appears in this particular article, but it also appeared in many places if you just Google and find out starvation. That means if you eat less, I mean, especially living in America, we probably eat much more than we are supposed to, and that's the biggest, people call it like poison, because we eat so much which we don't need. So there's a concept they call calorie restriction. That means if you eat 600 calories less than what you eat every single day, then it can have significant benefits on your cardiovascular health and overall health. So we're going to talk about that in the subsequent slides. We go to the next point. So in this particular article, they said, if you can find a treatment, so what we are seeing over here so far is, if you beat cardiovascular disease, you're going to get 5 to 6 years of life, right? If you beat cancer, you get 2 to 4 years of life. But if you go on to the next slide, if there is an intervention by which you can impact the overall aging process. So why does cardiovascular disease, why does older people have heart disease? Because there are certain things happening. Your arteries are becoming hard, your heart is probably a little bit weaker, you got some metabolic issues which are happening. So there are different processes which are happening because of which your body is not able to cope up. But if there is something which slowed the aging process, the whole aging process, then it can fit the bill because it not only reduces the risk of different diseases, but also can impact the disability which comes with age. And what is that? So if you go to the next slide, it's not so secret, seriously. I mean, we know people amongst us who just live a very simple life. And I think some of you would remember when I did my talk a couple of times before, we talked, if you live like your ancestors, you find that you probably have less diseases. So what did our ancestors do? They didn't have cars, they used to walk all everywhere. They did not have McDonald's or fried food. They basically used to eat food as closest to its natural form, right? And they used to sleep well because there was probably not so much light, not so much distraction. So when the sun would go down, after a few hours, they would probably sleep. So they used to sleep well. And they didn't worry too much about the future because they would do farming, they would work hard and get their food and eat. And if we can start, obviously we cannot exactly live like our ancestors, but if we can come close to mimicking that, you will see that we have a healthier life. So there are 3 things: exercise regularly, eat healthy, and manage stress. I mean, it obviously seems much easier said than done. But if you go to the next slide, so these are this particular article which appeared this year in Time magazine talks about 5 or 6 things. I'm going to list 5 or 6 things and then go into details for 2 or 3. One is protect your heart. So if you really protect your heart, and this particular article, before I get into this particular article which talks about your brain health, which also impacts your overall health. So protecting your heart, it talks about how you can lower the risk of the heart disease, which has got a very, very strong correlation with your brain health. And what are the heart diseases we're talking about? We're talking about hypertension, we're talking about high cholesterol. So those are primarily two main things. Next, exercise regularly. I know from this morning we have been talking about, we have heard Dr. Mistry talking about that, the impact of the brain. Dr. Tomer talked about that, and then I'm also going to give you a little bit more evidence that why exercising is so very important. If you see the next point, which is learn new things. Now, any guesses why there is so much stress nowadays on learning new things? Anybody? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So if you see, as we are aging, our brain cells are dying. And dementia and Alzheimer's disease is becoming a big problem, not only for the US, but across the globe. Because and I think my son says that you get older when you stop learning. So I think, and I'll probably give an example of my dad, who is about 77 years old, but he's got this thirst, if I may use that word, to constantly learn. I mean, he kind of surprises us all the time. I think he just started learning harmonium. So he used to live in Canada, they just moved back to India. And he started learning at 75 years of age. He started learning harmonium. And if there's any problem in the computer, I mean, he just figures it out himself. I mean, it just kind of blows my mind that how he constantly is learning. And then you see him, and he's very, very active. I mean, he's 77 years old. He does exercises, he walks, he's constantly reading, he's constantly learning. On the other hand, my mom is there, who's basically given up everything. I mean, she says, oh, you know what, I'm 72 years old. I think I don't want to learn anything. I just want to pray and just live. And I have started seeing some early signs of dementia, which is really, really very scary for me, because obviously I love my mom a lot. And so when we go back to India next month, I'm thinking, how can I really get her more engaged? So not only for yourself, and as we constantly do, we need to constantly learn new things. I mean, I'm 47 years old, and I've been trying to do things which I've never done before. I just recently signed up for a painting class, not just to do something for the heck of doing it, but just to learn something new. You activate certain areas of the brain which have never been activated, and therefore you are, by this, you're obviously doing something better. You're making new friends, and also you are preserving or activating certain cells or neurons in your brain by which you are less likely to have either dementia or Alzheimer's disease in the future. Be social. And I think I'm not going to talk too much about that. We heard from two of our earlier speakers. Loneliness is a problem. Either you are the border security force, you mentioned, or anybody else. I mean, we are social animals. And there are numerous studies which have mentioned, which have indicated that people who are loners, who are not very social, they basically do not have a very good prognosis of their life. And if you see the next point, which is depression, I'll tell you some of the prevalence of depression, especially among the Indians. It's kind of mind-boggling. I mean, I really did not know myself till I read this particular article that depression is so prevalent among the in India and among the Indian population. But how do we recognize depression? I think there's still a social stigma associated with depression. A lot of us do not recognize depression because there is no definitive test by which you cannot do a blood test and it will tell you that you have depression. There are certain questionnaires by which you can really find out. So you have to be very sensitive in identifying depression in your spouses and among your parents and see that it is treated, because if it is not treated, it is going to impact your mental health and overall aging. And sleep well, I don't think I'm going to spend any time on that. So those were the 6 things. Now before we get into 2 or 3 things, it is a matter of choice. And many times the choices which we make every day is going to have an impact. We can spend hundreds of dollars every year to go to a gym, and then as it was mentioned in the morning, we can have excuses of why we don't want to go to the gym. But if you don't want to go to the gym, there are certain simple things which you can do by which you can be healthy. Like in this particular visual, what you see over here is when you go, I work in Connecticut and my office is on the 11th floor. I take the stairs every single day. I just did a very, very long biking. I'm a road biker. I did 310 miles, but the next day I went, I still took the stairs. So when you go and stand in front of the elevator, you have a choice. Are you going to walk or are you going to take the elevator? If you make that as a habit, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of opportunities in front of you to exercise and be active every single day. It's your choice. Or you can take the elevator. Similarly, if you see some of the other choices, if you have a back pain, you can pop in a painkiller like pretty much all millions of Americans, or you can do something about it. I mean, I was not myself, I did used to practice yoga. My wife Abhi, she taught me about 4 or 5 years back. And I practice yoga pretty much, I try to do about 4 times a week. That's my morning ritual. That's what I did. And so you have to make those choices. Whether you want to be healthy, you can look pretty by dyeing your hair. Obviously, that's not an option for me. Or you can go to a dermatologist, or you can do some of the other things by which you can physically look healthy and slow the aging process. But deep inside, if you really want to be healthy, you need to make certain choices. And that choices would really make a determination if you're going to be healthy as a whole person, inside or out or not. So a couple of more examples. If you are suffering from diabetes, or you are at risk of diabetes or hypertension, I know people who were diabetic and who really worked hard took this as a challenge upon themselves and basically reversed their diabetes. Rajesh has obviously talked about there are 17 people who enrolled in the diabetes prevention program. It is not rocket science. But if you put your mind on that, think how we should be living. Whether if you're living a mile or 2 from the grocery store, you have a choice. You just get on the car, or say, you know what, I'm going to either pedal my bike, or just walk, or do something about it. Similarly, if you have diabetes, or your risk of diabetes, you can reverse it. Is it difficult? Of course it is. But then the effect is going to be much more long-lasting. And why do I say that? Because these diseases are progressive. These are chronic diseases. We are aging every minute. We are aging every day. We are aging every year. It's going to get worse. A pill which works today is not going to work tomorrow. You probably either need a combination or a different pill, or you need a higher dose. So sooner or later, you have to do something about it in terms of the lifestyle. And the third option is, again, if you're stressed or anxious. And I honestly speak from a lot of these things by studying, by looking at a lot of clinical trials, but also from personal experience. Like all Americans, we all are stressed. We're trying to juggle so many things. I've been suffering for probably last about 12 years, anxiety. I had a panic attack, and we used to live in Canada. I had a severe panic attack, and it seemed like almost I'm going to die. And I was on a very, very high dose of anxiety medications. But slowly, I said, I cannot do this. Of course, there are side effects, as I mentioned before. But first, then what can I do about it? And slowly, I've taken yoga. I am very active in the gym. And slowly I have reduced. I stopped the medications a couple of times, but the anxiety came back. But now I'm on a very, very low dose. Doctors say, are you taking a dose? It doesn't even do anything. It probably does for me, but it's a subtherapeutic dose in what the doctors say. It's a 25 milligram of sertraline. So it's a subtherapeutic dose. But I just take it. But I've brought the medication to such a level because I just need a little bit of that chemical. But I'm maintaining it through my yoga and by just being more healthy. So you have a choice, and everything will have implications in life. So I think I talked about some of these things. Why is our choice important? So if we can go through some of those points, we talked about that. Of course, everything has implications. We talked about chronic diseases as they're progressive, whether it's diabetes, whether it's hypertension, or anything else. Your disease is going to progress. We also talked about most pharmaceuticals have side effects. And trust me, I work in pharmaceuticals. They want you to be on therapy. We want you to take drugs. If you don't take drugs, we don't make money. Pharmaceuticals don't make money. So they want you to be taking those therapies. But and the last thing, which I think is the most important thing, is if you remember before we talked about an approach, which is a holistic approach, which can do everything. It's not that you're trying to address hyperacidity because of stress, so you're taking anti-oxidants, or you've got depression or anxiety and you're trying to take a medication, or you've got arteries, as you're getting old, they're becoming hard and you're having hypertension, or there is something else. These are all, you're trying to manage the symptoms. In certain cases, obviously, you're trying to manage the disease as well. But if you can do and make a choice to have a healthier life, healthier lifestyle by eating healthy, by exercising regularly, by sleeping well, and taking care of your body, I think you'll have a much more long-lasting life. So, I have okay. So my plan was to basically talk about these three things, what we, off the list of those things we talked about. Any questions or any other topic you want me to cover? This session is for you. So if you have any questions, please don't be shy. The only question which is stupid is which is not being asked.
Can you talk about vitamins?
Vitamins, okay? Yeah, I'll try. But I think we did write an article on vitamins, so we can talk about that. Anything else?
There are certain diseases which are genetic.
Right.
How do you address those?
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So, I'll try, but I think there are more qualified people than me here, but I'll try to give my answer, and others can probably address those. Yeah?
Have you seen examples of progressive degenerative diseases, being like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, in your experience, being reversed, or the deterioration stopping?
Yeah.
In your experience, through some
Well,
of these practices and not, or maybe supplemented by medications.
Right. So,
do you see that?
So I've not seen it. Obviously, I've not experienced it. I'm relatively young, and that's an old. But those are good questions. So 3 questions which I'll try to address and answer. And please feel free to jump in. I know we've got 2 or 3 doctors here who are much more educated. So at the end of the day, our objective here is to help you guys. So vitamins, I think there is a lot of evidence. At the end of the presentation, there is a department which is called NCAM, which is National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine, which is a National Institute of Health department. They research all those, different, either it's multivitamins or I'm going to talk about some of those, or any other non-conventional medicines, and they come up with their recommendations. In terms of multivitamins, I'm happy to send you that article. We did a meta-analysis. So as part of our I Control My Health, which is a non-profit organization, we looked at all the different evidence on the multivitamins. I think the jury is still out there. I don't think there are some research studies say there is a benefit, And there's a benefit with some of the vitamins, while there is no clear impact on longevity and mortality in terms of these particular medications. And the reason is, if you follow the guidelines, I think there are 5, myplate.gov recommends 5 kind of foods. So if you eat your regular serving of vegetables, fruits, daily, proteins, and I think whole grains. I think those are the 5, if I remember correctly. But if you're eating those very healthy, there probably be less requirements for multivitamins. I mean, there could be certain for calcium and other things, supplements, but generally, if you eat healthy, I don't think there is a clear correlation that vitamins are going to help you. Okay, so that's your answer. The second answer was in terms of the genetic disorders, right? So aging, what we're talking about is chronic diseases. I actually work for Alexion Pharmaceuticals, which focuses on orphan drugs. And genetic disorders are different. It obviously is passed on by genes, and there are very specific interventions which are required. So I do work in that area, but I think that is kind of a little bit out of what we're going to talk today. So I don't think it impacts with aging or chronic diseases. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but be happy to talk offline. So I have some knowledge on that, so we can talk. The third question about Alzheimer's disease. So there is no cure, to the best of my knowledge, for Alzheimer's disease. There are many companies working to find a cure, but they have not been able to. There are many companies which have come a little bit closer, but I think they have failed their clinical trials, and I've been monitoring some of those particular companies. I am actually going to cover Alzheimer's disease a little bit in terms of what are the other prevention strategies you could do, and so I'm happy to talk about that. Dr. Misri, do you have anything else on Alzheimer's? And you are into neuroscience.
There are things that do maintain cognitive function.
Right.
There are different strategies for that, but after somebody has full-blown Alzheimer's, no.
No, yes. Okay. So that's true. I mean, it's kind of, it's like companies are really doing a lot of trials. There are many companies trying to work and find a drug. As I mentioned, some have come closer, but unfortunately, but the science is evolving. We are hoping that in our lifetime, something would be. But before that happens, we will talk about Alzheimer's disease. It starts happening 10 to 12 years before the actual symptoms of Alzheimer's disease show. So it is very, very important for us to start working towards those strategies which are addressed, and you can probably find in any of the reputed sites, government sites, and non-profit sites, which will tell you how you can prevent or at least slow down if you're not predisposed at a higher risk. Okay, so let's go over quickly these 3 things. Protect your heart. I'm going to talk about cholesterol. I think most of you probably should be aware, but if you're not, I'll go over quickly. That should be the easiest one. And second, we talk about depression a little bit. I want to really focus on last 2 because I think that's more the mental and some of the things which are talked about, but is still kind of not very well recognized. Okay, so if you look at quickly about heart disease, I mean, it is the #1 killer. I think everybody knows about that. I think for the past 30, 40 years, there has been so much education about different kind of facts, different kind of things you could do. I think pharmaceuticals have done a fantastic job with coming with medications for cholesterol, like statins, which are really lifesavers and which has got clear benefit. So if you have hypertension, if you have cholesterol, you obviously need to treat those. So again, it is a huge problem. It impacts almost 35% of our population. If you go on to the next point. So weight has got, so one thing, does obesity have a link with heart disease? Of course it does. As you can see over here in this particular slide, people who have higher BMI or who have high abnormal weight, they tend to have more incidence of heart disease. But people who have also normal weight, that doesn't mean, because many times, I mean, like me, I mean, I'm not obese, but I have high cholesterol. So so I'm very healthy, so yeah, so don't think that, oh, if you're really healthy and you're hitting the gym, you still can have. So that is where a genetic component really comes in. Because my dad had a heart attack before he was like 58. So, there is some kind of a genetic component in that as well. But, so both are at risk. So, it is very important for you to regularly get your annual physical, get your blood work done, and make sure that your levels are normal, what it should be. If you go on to the next, what is, and then hypertension, you can see, I'm talking about adults as defined by greater than or equal to 18 years of age. A lot of people have pre-hypertension. I'm 47, and I've now recently, in my recent physical, I am pre-hypertensive now. Although I'm so healthy, I mean, I eat pretty much healthy, I exercise so much, and I try to do yoga, but because now the new threshold is 120/80 is considered as pre-hypertensive. It used to be normal before. 120/80. 120 is your systolic and 80 is your diastolic, lower blood pressure readings. But now 120/80 is considered as a pre-hypertensive. So I used to be, oh, perfect, 120/80. And now I'm like 122 and something, and I'm pre-hypertensive. So you need to, as you're aging, I mean, it becomes more and more challenging. Now, what is more concerning is a lot of children have these kind of diseases. Because you look around, I mean, in our families, in our neighborhoods, we see, children having these kind of diseases where weight is becoming, a problem. Not to mention that you shouldn't be comfortable, but it does have a correlation. I think most of you, I think I talked in my previous talk, obesity is an official disease now. It is a disease. Obesity itself is classified as a disease. If you go on to the next, both points. Same thing with cholesterol. You see in adults and you see in children as well. If you go on to the next slide, do you guys know heart disease? Do you guys want me to talk about it a little bit? Do you understand hypertension, cholesterol? You guys do, right? I mean, you guys are nodding. So, anybody else? I mean, who doesn't know? Yes? No? Okay, just quickly, go over it. So what is high blood pressure? I mean, high blood pressure, as the name suggested, blood pressure is normal. So don't say you have blood pressure, because blood pressure is normal. You're supposed to have blood pressure. It's like when you have a garden hose and you got, there are the walls, the water when it goes through the garden hose, the pressure which is exerting on the walls of the hose is the pressure, blood pressure. So then as you get old, obviously your arteries or your blood vessels become a little bit hard. It's known as arteriosclerosis, and when it becomes hard, it doesn't have that flexibility. So and then it's much more complicated. And I know we have a cardiologist here, so I don't want to embarrass myself. But it's very interrelated. You've got how fast your heart is beating. You've got kidneys involved. You've got other metabolic syndromes involved. So a whole bunch. It's very, very complicated. But that's basically what hypertension is. So how can you prevent? So I'm not really here to educate, but how do you really prevent hypertension? So be physically active. I mean, no brainer. I think this has been very well talked about either in your community. So if you consider this, I think in the morning it was mentioned, it is not a chore. It should not be a chore. It is a lifestyle. And thanks for educating us. I was thinking it's 21 days, but it looks like it's 66 days before you form a habit. So you need to work a little bit more harder. But yeah, I mean, for me, I've been working out all my life, and it is a habit. If I don't work out, seriously, I'm depressed. Because as we heard, I mean, it leads to, it releases, when you work out, it releases certain hormones which make you feel good. And so my body is so used to work out. If I don't work out, I mean, you can feel depressed. So be physically active, number one thing. Don't be a couch potato. Have a healthy eating habits. We talked about, don't go after that seriously unless you have to and your doctor recommends that multivitamin giving. Seriously, I don't take multivitamins. I just eat healthy. I pretty much every day lunch is a salad. most of the times, if I can. And so eat healthy. Limit your alcohol intake. I mean, there is still, the jury's still out how much alcohol. If you don't drink alcohol, you don't have to. But if you drink, limit it. I think 1 to 2 drinks, that's what's generally recommended. Maintain healthy weight. I mean, I think as one of our strategies as part of CDC's diabetes prevention program, which Rajesh and others have been talking this morning, and I'm a certified coach in that, and I've taken many classes, you have to invest that $18 at Target and buy a weighing scale and keep it in your bathroom. Every morning. It's not once in 6 months or once in a month. Please do invest and check your weight. It should be, you brush your teeth, go to the bathroom in the morning and check your weight. It should be, it will make you much more conscious and you will work towards that, maintaining a healthy weight. Manage your stress levels. I think it's very, very important. I think many of you attended yoga today. I cannot stress on much more benefits of yoga. Obviously, I do it. I vouch for it. It's a lifesaver. Smoking, obviously, I mean, there's a lot of awareness, especially being in America. My kids have gone through the DARE program, and smoking is absolutely bad in every possible sense, whether it's e-cigarette or chewing tobacco or whatever. So, and sleep well. So those are some of the strategies for heart disease, which I think most of you should be aware. If you go to the next slide. So this is from my website. Yes. 5 or 5 minutes? Oh, sorry. Yeah, so, okay. Just very quickly about this is, we do have a website, I Control My Health. I'm not recommending or telling you to go that. What I did was, we had a team of 6 or 7 medical writers. We used to go and look at all the other natural therapies, and we used to do meta-analysis in terms of their efficacy, their evidence, and safety. I mean, there are certain medications, there are so many there, which are not really, there are no clinical evidence, but there are some. So for example, I'll just give you one example. As I mentioned, I have high cholesterol. I used to be on a statin myself, which is the #1 choice and very, very effective therapy. But I used to have a little bit of muscle pain. And I said, okay, I'm not going to take it. And I started taking red yeast rice, which is a natural therapy. And I've been taking it for almost 4 years. And my cholesterol is under check, and my muscle pain is gone. So we do this. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer or direct you to the right resources. So I'm going to jump through this quickly and go into, we'll jump to high cholesterol. Yeah, let's go. Okay. Depression. Go to the next slide, please. So depression. I know we all use this word as, hey, I'm feeling depressed today. Now that depression is a temporary mood change. When you're feeling low, that is okay. That's perfectly normal. That is not depression. Depression is when for a longer period of time, you continue to feel low, or you do not enjoy the things which you enjoyed in the past, or there are certain things which are happening which are very unusual. That is depression. And some of these are listed here, which are feeling sad. You feel you feel that life is pointless. You feel very irritated. Men in particular, they feel very aggressive, angry, and restless. I mean, those are some of the evidence which is there. It is a chronic illness. It is, and when you see these signs, you have to recognize it. And and I remember, I know somebody in my family, very senior level professional, would feel that, and people would say, "Oh, he's just acting out. This is not depression." It's the social stigma is there, so it's very, very important. Men also suffer a lot of depression, so please recognize and educate yourself. If it is there, please treat it, because it's a disease like a throat infection or a back pain. It is a disease. It's a serious disease. So if you go on to the next one, I'm just going to draw your attention, since because of the paucity of time, to the second statement which I was mentioning. So it is very prevalent, but if you read the second bullet, it says the incidence of major depression is found to be lowest in China, which is 12%, and the highest in India, 36%. I personally was shocked because I didn't know. I don't know what the reason is. But for whatever reason, I mean, this comes from a documented resource. So we all do not live in India, but most of them are from that ethnic background, so we do have higher incidence of depression. Men generally deny and feel that, hey, I'm not mad or something. It's not got nothing to be mad or anything. It is a chronic, it's a serious disease, and that should be recognized. So these are mechanisms of depression. I'm not going to go into the detail because of time. So if you go to the next one. So let's quickly go into the consequences of depression. So as I mentioned, it's a serious illness. If it is not treated, it not only impacts your mental health, but overall health, because it can lead to alcohol abuse, because you're feeling worthless, you don't know what's going on, so you can get into an alcohol abuse. Depression and anxiety happens from the same chemical imbalances, so it can also lead to anxiety. Then heart disease and other medical conditions, obviously work and school problems, family conflicts, relationship problems, social isolation, and most of the suicides which happen are attempted by people who are depressed. So it's a very serious problem, and as we're talking about healthy aging, it is very, very important that we address this particular problem. If you go on to, again, these are some of the medications on the green side which we have researched. We found there are certain things which partly work, and there is evidence, and you can go onto the government site and find these information as well. It's also available on I Control My Health and some other sites as well. So quickly going into Alzheimer's disease. As I mentioned, it's an aging issue. I mean, as people age around 60 or 65, their brain cells start dying. You have neurons which start dying, and which really impacts your how they communicate. You have start having speaking problems. You just in its most advanced stage, you can probably have the basic chores problems can be there. And you can read about that. I'm just probably going to be talking for one more slide. The next one, this one. So causes and risk of, and probably another one, which is prevention strategy. Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about this. So these are, I think it was your question you asked about what are the prevention strategies, and I think these are some of the things what you can talk about. There is some evidence that adequate intake of folic acid and some vitamins, but if you're eating healthy, you probably don't need any vitamins. Low saturated fat consumption. Actually, I say that because there has been some evidence that statins, which are cholesterol drugs, has probably some impact on Alzheimer's disease. So more research is probably going on. So therefore, you see low saturated fat consumption. It has overall benefits, not only for your mental health, but overall health. Statins, if you're taking statins, please do, because it's obviously helping you with your cholesterol. It has a clear relationship with reversing regression atherosclerosis, and also having a clear relationship with mortality. So, and improves your chances of living more, and then also the benefit in Alzheimer's disease. Education, so keep learning new things. This is this is probably the most important thing. I'm going next month to India to see my mom. I'm already going to give her an iPhone to get her engaged in everything and be able to go to Facebook or go to read the news or do something else, because you're trying to activate. There are many other mind games sites which are there. The evidence is kind of still a little bit, not 100% there, but I think there are clearly some anecdotal science that probably helps. So I'm just going to stop here. I'm sorry. I obviously have more slides. Rajesh warned me, but I probably also speak more. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ajit. And as you mentioned, right, if you need more information, please visit icontrolmyhealth.org and also mysterymind.com, upcoming mystery. As a token of appreciation from Project Self.
Thank you very much.